Welcome to the Keyhire Small Business Podcast, your go-to resource for tackling challenges and empowering small business owners to scale successfully. Our mission is to help unlock your business's full potential. My name's Corey Harlock, and I'll be your host. And we have, our guests just keep getting better and better all the time. Today, we have Chris Hanslik from BoyarMiller, and I'll admit they are a client of Keyhire currently, so I can attest to everything that's going to be said from firsthand knowledge. They run a great show. A little bit about Chris. He's been the chairman at BoyarMiller for over 12 years. He won the Houston Business Journal's Most Admired CEOs in 2021. What's really pivotal to this conversation is they won the Houston Business Journal Best Places to Work 4 years running, including this year. So if we look back at that timeline, they won it the first time in 2020 when the world went crazy. They won it in 2021 when the world was still crazy. 2022 as we started leveling out, and now again in 2023 as things are getting back to the new normal. And another interesting thing, Chris hosts a podcast through BoyarMiller called Building Texas Business, about corporate innovation, entrepreneurship, business leadership in the Lone Star State. And we're going to give you a link to that at the end of the show as well, but I highly recommend you check that out. I believe it's award-winning too. These guys don't do anything halfway. So without further ado, Matt, let's bring in Chris. How did I do?
I was impressed. I don't know if any of that was true or not, but no, it sounded good. It sounded good.
Our due diligence department's a little lean. That's what you sent me. So we just went with it.
Very good. No, couldn't be more excited about the firm being recognized by the Houston Business Journal. They were now 4 years in a row, and we take a lot of pride in that because that is a true team award. The way that process runs, it's a serious survey that you have to have a high percentage of your people respond to just to be in the running to be considered, and then they analyze those responses. So it means a lot.
And so, just so people understand, you give them an idea of the size of the firm, Chris, because you guys aren't small by any means either. You're not huge, but you're not small.
Yeah, that's a probably good way. We are clearly not the largest law firm in the world, and don't want to be. We just want to be the best. And so, total employee count is around 55, 56. With about 36 attorneys, the rest is support staff and other staff. So that puts us for the Houston Business Journal. I think we're in the 50 to 99 employee category. So yes, plenty of people here rowing in the right direction. We're a professional service firm, law firm trying to serve clients. So it's important that to do this topic that we have a cohesive team that is focused on our mission, which is serving clients and being the best we can be.
Yeah, and that's why I was so excited when you agreed to come on and talk about this, because small business owners talk so much about our culture, and you can put words on paper and stick them on a wall, and that's not culture, right? Culture is essentially, in my experience, the behaviors and actions of the leadership. Right. And I've had the pleasure of spending some time with Mr. Bill Boyer as well. And when he talks about the law firm, he doesn't talk about the services you provide. He starts out with talking about the culture of the firm. So you guys take it really seriously.
We do. And, it's been the history of that for us is pretty unique, I think, because we developed a mission statement and what we call core values, which are those behavioral guidelines long before it was popular to have something like that to put on your website. And when we talk about the firm, we start with our mission statement, because the mission is our passion. And it's what we're passionate about and what excites us to come to work at BoyarMiller every day. And for us, there's three tenets. It's providing counsel beyond expectation, building lasting relationships, and that's internal and external, and making a meaningful difference in people's lives, both again, internal and externally. So that is our core focus. And then that leads to the core values, which are how are we going to behave in order to fulfill that mission. And so I think you're right. Culture has to start at the top, but your culture is really a 360 look at the entire organization. But it's got to be top down, the people in the organization, have to see the leaders walking the walk, right? It's all behaviors, not talk, not words on the wall, as you said earlier, and doing it every day.
I agree. Way back when I was a younger man, at the beginning of my career, I worked for a corporate restaurant chain, and they said they had this triangle that they measured everything by, and it was the guests, the shareholders, and the employees. But when we had our meetings, all they talked about was money, right? So if you had to actually, and then they would talk a little bit about the guests, and they hardly ever talked about their employees. So it was like, it's certainly not an equilateral triangle when you break it down,
Right. We say that too. The mission and that passion. It has to be the what's the organization stand for and what its purpose, other than making money. Because if you're just focused on that, you're always going to lose sight of what is important, right? And so if you have, like anything, if you have a core foundation, you're always going to have troubles, right? There's going to be good times and bad, and in those hard times, if you have a set of values you stand for, you can go back to those, and it helps guide decision making, as it has for this firm, and as we've encountered ups and downs throughout the way, especially in the last several years, like everyone going through a pandemic, and then trying to figure out our way back to some sense of normalcy. Although that word does seem weird to use these days.
Yeah, the new normal, right? That's the big buzzword. So walk it, if you could. I mean, we always like to start with the what is it, right? And I think what we're talking about today is your journey over the last 4 years with the changing environment and trying to sustain or have your culture adjust, be adaptable to what was going on in the world, to maintain a strong culture and maintain your workforce and have people still excited to be there. So can you give us kind of a 30,000 foot overview of what that looked like at BoyarMiller?
Sure. It's, in my view, it started with a very strong culture before the pandemic, right? It was a very cohesive group, very aligned behind our mission and our values. So then the world went sideways or upside down. And I would say that culture was built on, fundamentals of teamwork and collaboration and mutual respect and support, and trying to develop our people to be great professionals. And then everyone got sent home, and we were working from home, and that was late March into April. By the end of April, and what we were doing everything we could via Zoom to stay connected. So, we did everything that most companies did. We had kind of weekly little happy hours for, where the whole firm would get on. And I tried to come up with, what games you've been playing, what are you binge watching, just to get people to share about what, stay connected personally. Different groups within the organization were meeting more than that. By mid-April, excuse me, what I started hearing from people as we were on these video calls were, God, I miss the office. I miss seeing everybody. And, Texas and Houston kind of opened things back up May 1st. And one of the things that we did was we got prepared for that and said, how can we get back together in a safe way? Because we felt like, being together is what fosters and creates a culture in a company. And the more you're apart, you're at risk for erosion. And so we quickly moved. I retained a physician that was working in ERs treating COVID to come walk our office, give us advice on how we could come back in a safe way in May of 2020. And we did a town hall Zoom, or a 2-hour Zoom, where he educated everybody on what this virus is, what it's not, how you get it, how you don't, how we're going to operate. We came up with office guidelines of how we were going to operate. We had the benefit, obviously, the attorneys have private offices, and most of the staff have a dedicated workspace, so we could do some things to kind of create some separation. But we got back to the office, and we were flexible. Interestingly enough, we had a work remote policy before COVID hit. That's expanded quite a bit, since. But it was, what can we do to collaborate and work together? And that really started the process of what can maintaining this culture. Now, I'll tell you, it wasn't perfect. you know, I think as 2020 went on, we started to see, you know, even though we were in the office, people were still operating a little bit isolated. And as things became more safer, we started looking at what can we do to create opportunities for togetherness, whether in small groups or, you know, when we could in something a little larger, just to, you know, reconnect with people. It's hard, you know, on these video calls, you usually pop right in at the appointed time. And as soon as it's over, you're leaving the meeting to do another one. And what you get when you're in the office is you get the small talk about the weekend or the kids or your interest. And, you know, you start to get to know the people you're around. And for us, that's the kind of culture we want. And so that's what we were focused on to try to reinvigorate that.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic too, because not only are you trying to create that back to work, but we're also dealing with individuals who have their own kind of scale of comfort with coming back to the work and discomfort. So you're making a lot of, trying to create a policy that accommodates lots of different ways of thinking about what's going on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, one of the things in the early days was we had a handful of people that were high risk and couldn't come back. Right. And so how do you include them and not let them feel like they're left out? You know, the communication is always important. Boy, did it become really important, that kind of concept of over communicating, especially from the leadership, right. So that those people didn't feel left out, or the ones that maybe weren't comfortable, even though they were here, being in any kind of group setting. Right. And then, you know, the challenges kept coming because then the vaccine comes out and it's who's going to get it, who's not. Are you going to mandate it? Are you not? And that created, you know, a whole host of other issues to deal with to try to not create or avoid allowing those kind of, you know, in some ways political issues, but certainly personal choice issues, to not let them create fractures within your culture.
So we want to talk about reinvigorating culture. So that was kind of the process you went through. So I would assume it's really the last, well, we're in 09 of 2023 here. So the last year and 3 quarters, if we could, right? Year and a half, the last 18 months has really, I'm sure you've been doing a lot of work to kind of reinforce that culture. Have you taken the chance to make any changes to the way you're dealing with things? You know, what have you done to use the title of the podcast? What have you guys done over the last 18 months now to really reinforce and reinvigorate that culture now that everyone's back and it's kind of what it used to be for the most part?
Yeah, some of it has been as simple as getting back to some of the things that we have done that we did, you know, before 2020, which is a lot of gatherings and socializing and making sure that the teams, you know, whatever deal or case they're working on are making time to meet together as opposed to via Zoom or just sending emails. And it's almost rather than send an email, why don't you get together for even if it's 10 minutes and just create that? And we had been, you know, we had monthly lunches for the firm. And so we brought those back. We rotate. I typically do a monthly update to everyone, just what's going on in the firm. And so we brought those back and to kind of help foster when they used to be at breakfast. Now we rotate each month, breakfast, the next month it's a lunch, the next month it's a happy hour. And, you know, again, just, you know, encouraging things to get it jump started. I guess this would have been maybe early 2022. We actually paired people up in pairs of 3 or 4 to go to lunch on the firm, and just, you know, said, okay, it was kind of like a matchmaking thing, but okay, here's the groups that are going to have lunch, you know, this week. And then we did that, you know, throughout a period of time just to get people to go out and reconnect with each other.
Hey, it's Corey. And if you like what you're hearing, give this episode a thumbs up and subscribe or follow to get reminders of new episodes of the Key Hire Small Business Podcast.
It sounds a lot like you guys, and you've said it a lot too, but you really focused on connection and being together. And I'm curious, I'm sure you don't have stats on it, but in your experience and what you saw, what what were the differences in performance or overall happiness, however you would measure it, when people were away from the office and once you started really focusing on rebuilding that connection? Was there a tangible, or could you really feel a difference in the environment and in the productivity of the people?
I think so. And there are moments in time where I feel like there's an energy in the office that when people are here and there's collaboration going on, even if it's, it is not uncommon for someone to be walking around and come upon a group of a couple people talking about something they're working on, and they may not be on that project, but they chime in on their experience, and it's just like impromptu learning moment. But what it does is it creates kind of this buzz, this atmosphere of energy that you can feel. And
Right.
and I've heard, I hear it, I get the feedback, I go, and it just feels different, as opposed to in the early days when, like I said, people were a little more careful. We were
Right.
still here, we were still working together, but there were still some eggshells about, did you want, some people didn't want someone to come in their office, right? They'd stand in the hall and talk. In the early days, those were some of the guidelines: is stand at the doorway and don't come in. And that's not happening now. And you see people, sitting down and looking at a computer together, or whatever that might be. And it's one of those. It's hard to describe sometimes, but you feel it, and you can feel the difference, and the productivity goes up. I think the quality of work goes up.
Yeah.
And for us, when that happens, then we have really happy clients, and that's a good thing.
That's what you're all about.
Absolutely.
When they say you can do all these tricks to get into a flow when you work, well, it sounds like you guys have pushed the right buttons to take all those individuals and get them into everyone in a flow together. Everyone kind of working with your core values and all of the things you believe in, and the consistent messaging. It just allows people we understand what the sandbox is and where we need to play. And then everyone just kind of comes in and the rules are established, and they're allowed to just get to it. Right. And they know they're going to be supported, and you're creating almost a group flow. It sounds like
that's certainly the goal. And keep in mind, we still try to be flexible, and we have a work remote policy. So people do work remotely from time to time, and when it's appropriate. What we try to talk about in that is we have commitments. We have commitments to our clients. We have commitments to the organization, and we have commitments to each other. And of course, we have commitments outside the office as well. We try to obviously be supportive and respectful of that. But when it comes to our work, it's okay if you need to be at home or work remote, but the key to that policy, right, is work. It's a work remote policy. And I think early on, some of that, maybe people, there was not just here, but I sensed it, and I talked to colleagues and other that own businesses in other industries. And there was just like kind of a lack of urgency as this malaise as we were coming out of 20 and 21. And what we've tried to talk about is reinsert the urgency in what we do, focus on the commitments we have to each other and to our clients. And if you can do that, then where you do the work won't be as important as how you do the work, recognizing that we have a bias towards being together. In fact, our work remote policy is called any chair, anywhere. So it's grounded in the commitments we have to our clients, to our firm, and to each other.
And I think when people are being led or have a clear goal and they're busy, they're happiest. For
sure. I mean, it's funny. I think as humans, we complain. We just kind of complain by nature a lot. So we complain when we're really slow and nothing to do. And when we're really busy, we complain about being busy, but we always like that side of it better than not being busy, right? Because we can complain about not being busy, but there's also sometimes an inherent fear of, oh my gosh, is everything going to be okay? when you have the other problem and it's, gosh, I'm so busy, I don't know if I can get it all done. There's certainly a sense of job security in that. And so we certainly try to push to be on that side of the coin.
Well, and I would even argue there's fulfillment, right? Like being able to cross things off your list. That's fulfilling versus not having a list to work towards, right?
You cannot get experience and thereby develop your skills if you don't have things to work on.
That's right. That's it right there. I think that's the nutshell.
Yeah, and we have a core value of developing our people to be great professionals. So if we can't bring in the work and have it be challenging and fulfilling, then we're not going to deliver on that core value, and that's not okay with us. We're committed to helping people develop to be the best professional they can be and go along the way. We hope that every associate we hire one day becomes a shareholder and partner in this firm.
Right. The one thing I didn't say, are your lines of business. And I know you guys do real estate, you do M&A, you work with a lot of small and mid-sized businesses, acquisitions, and you do a little bit of litigation, and you do some other real estate work as well. I'm curious to know, in your kind of journeys and talking to business owners and things, your policy, what I'm kind of reading behind the lines, was it wasn't an iron glove, right? It wasn't everyone's back on this day and this is the way it's going to be. And I think a lot of small businesses or business owners maybe took that tact and it didn't land well. What are kind of some of the mistakes maybe you made at the firm, or in speaking with business owners they may have made in kind of bringing people back in and because it was a bit of a rebuild, right? When people go away that long and that much change happens in your world and everyone's world, I know they want to go back to have it be the same, but it just isn't. And so I'm curious to know what your experiences were in terms of the mistakes maybe that were made.
Yeah, it's a great question. There was a lot. I mean, I think for me, it starts with either of those extremes weren't good, right? Some businesses, I guess they're unique and you can't do the job remote, right? But
manufacturing, if you're on the line, you can't, work a machine from home.
But setting those aside, the extreme of everyone's got to come back 5 days a week, or the extreme of everyone's fully remote. I think in both of those, I saw people go, well, okay, maybe I was too harsh in making everybody come back. Maybe I should have a little flexibility. And then the other that maybe allowed it to go too long and regretted because now trying to get people back in became a problem. Right. So both of those extremes I saw create issues. It's as people started to come back, it was okay. Now what are we going to mandate? 3 days a week, 2 days a week? Are we going to keep it openly flexible? What we saw, specific to our industry, especially in 2001, and I think this was true across other industries, because if you remember, and especially with what you do, and in 2021, maybe early half of 2022, we were dealing with what we were calling the Great Resignation, and people were just not working.
Yep.
And so there was decisions at the owner leadership stage of making decisions out of fear of losing people, right? And that's never a healthy thing. And I know we felt ourselves at times trapped in that and going, gosh, there's a run on talent. And, what do we've made some decisions to go, well, we maybe need to do this for fear of losing someone. And the fact is, if you're going to lose them, you're going to lose them. And so I think it's, you want to be smart about it, but you have to stay. That's where it's so important to focus back on your mission, your values, what's core to your organization, and go, is this decision consistent with that? I guess every decision doesn't have to be, but if it's not, you have a good reason why not. So those were kind of some of the things I experienced. Those extremes caused issues. And I think if you were somewhere in the middle, making decisions out of fear, as opposed to what was really in the right, best interest of your business.
In what I keep hearing you say is, because you had such a strong foundation from which you were operating from all along, you had that point of reference, always had that point of reference, as well as your employees. Your employees understood, and there was consistent messaging before anything happened, through all the craziness, and then up until today. the message has been consistent, and you guys have stayed the course with it. And I think that consistency is a great equalizer in terms of if you do make a mistake or have a hiccup, you can always go back to it and people will be more forgiving because you've been so consistent through the years versus kind of going one extreme to the other and really having no anchor by which to make your decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Look, I'm certainly not perfect. No one I know is. Well, I guess
not what I heard, Chris. That's not what the word is on the street.
That's right. So we're going to make mistakes. So not all, and whether it's a mistake, not all decisions are well received or popular with everyone. And that's another thing, I guess, as a leader, you have to come to grips with is not everyone's going to like the decision. But if they see in that time or in that decision, but more importantly, over time in all the decisions, what you're doing is trying to make the best decision you can with the information you have in the best interest of the organization. Even if they may not agree with it, they can get aligned behind it. And we talk about alignment here a lot, which is subtly different in our view than agreement. And that is, okay, I may not necessarily agree with this, but I can support it and get behind it. And so what we talk about here is let's align behind a decision, then let's act, because you can align all you want, but if you don't act, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And once we go into action, we have to learn and adjust because the world's changing. As soon as we align with the information we have and we start to act, right, new information's come out, the world looks a little different. So then we have to adjust and realign and act again. And that's an ongoing process, but it's a process that can be maybe not streamlined, but easier to go through. As we said, if you have that core purpose, those values that are consistent. And that's the one thing we say, they're really not up for grabs around here. That that's what this organization stands for. I tell people, clients I work with, I recommend, look, you got to figure out what is your purpose. You mentioned my podcast. I interview entrepreneurs and business owners, and I can tell you, I think if you listen to all, almost 55 episodes now, they all talk about that. That when they've been successful, it's because they had a core purpose. They stayed true to that core. When they started to go away from that is when troubles happened.
That's interesting. So if I'm a business owner and I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, man, maybe I have overlooked or neglected building this foundation by which I want to manage, or I'm telling people to do one thing and I'm doing another, or I haven't taken the time to align my team.
Yeah.
They're not going to build a foundation as strong as you guys have at BoyarMiller because you've been working on it for years and years and years. But if they want to get started, because it's obvious that it was that foundation that allowed you to move through the last 4 years and come out the other side as successful as you are. And that's kind of what you went back to. So it's obviously really important. So I'm a business owner and I'm thinking, man, I gotta do that. I need to get on this train and start getting everything aligned. What would you recommend they do first, second, just to get started building that foundation?
Sure. Great question. Very important question. I think it starts with purpose. I would tell that business owner, you need to go away, get out of the office, do something, but really look introspectively, deeply, and go, what's the why? What's the purpose of why do I even have this company? Again, other than making money, what's the passion? What's the purpose? And be able to write it down and articulate it, and whether that's with your senior team or whatever, but it has to be something that resonates. I tell people it needs to resonate in your heart and in your gut, right? That this is like, we'd run through a wall because this is what we are here to do. And look, an outcome, hopefully, especially from the for-profit world, a good outcome of you really focus on your mission and your purpose would be profit and making money. But that should be an outcome of doing other things right. And
Yeah.
so that would be the advice is and then you come back and you can articulate this purpose, this why to everyone and say, this is what we're really about here. And if you're on board with that, this is going to be the best organization that you could ever be with. And if you're not, again, if what this mission is about this company doesn't resonate with you, it's okay. Because I tell people that all the time here. It's okay if the 3 tenets of our mission don't resonate with you. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means this is not the right organization for you. We always like we think in, right and wrong, us and them, and that's not the case. I said it when we started, we are not trying to be the largest law firm. And a lot of my clients have great, successful companies. They're not trying to be the biggest company in the world, but they want to be the best at what they do and what they stand for. Yeah. And they want the people that are there to believe in that mission and that purpose. And I've seen, I'm sure you have too, again, in your line of business, people come and then they realize, wait, that doesn't really resonate with me. So we're not the right organization. You know what? 9 times out of 10, if not more, those people have found the right organization for them. As hard as those decisions have been, maybe to counsel them out or whatever, they end up better off. And so do we. Because then it frees us up to go find someone that actually does connect with that mission and that purpose. So that can be a process that causes a lot of anxiety for both sides, but in the end, it ends up well.
And you touched on something really important. Like when we do what we do, we want to dive in and understand the culture of the company. And oftentimes we work with business owners and they've never defined their culture. And I say, hey, great, kind of unintended consequence. We're going to tell you what it is because we're going to do our diligence. And I think our success rate is due to the fact that we understand the people we work with, and we're better able to outline when someone starts working for a company, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So there are no surprises, because I think a huge mistake people will make is they want to win the interview and convince that person to come and work for them. So they bend the truth, right? They might say, we have a great culture here. But what they mean to say is, we want to make a better culture and we see you as being a first step. So there's going to be some work. It could get a little messy, but we see you being a big part of that. And when people get in and they realize they don't have a great culture, their first impression is, maybe they lied to me. And that's not a great way to start a relationship.
No, for sure. For sure. No, well, the saying goes, right? You have a culture, whether you know it or not. And
Exactly.
So it's better to know it, help design and craft it, I guess, than be oblivious and just know that it's out there percolating, despite what you may know or think.
And if you don't know what your culture is, ask your employees to take an anonymous survey and they will tell you what your culture is. And if you don't like it, then you can make a decision to say, maybe I'm going down the wrong path. But or you might say, okay, that makes perfect sense. Let's roll with it.
Yeah. That you bring up a good point. I think it's important to seek feedback and listen. And I think you have to be honest with people. We want your feedback. It doesn't mean we're going to necessarily do everything that all of you ask us to do, right? We can't do that. So we do what we call the firm report card twice a year. And we ask our people to basically comment on how we're doing relative to the 3 tenets of our mission and the 5 core values. And it's anonymous and it's a survey and it's truly anonymous. I think some maybe not believe it, but I think most have been here long enough. They do believe that, but we always get learning. And what I try to do, the shareholders of the firm, we spend a significant amount of time twice a year going over those results. And I try to then later tell people there are some things, here are some of the learning, we changed the way we do X because we heard from the report card. So we take it to heart, but I also let them know just because you throw a comment in there, you can't expect that, because we didn't do that doesn't mean we're not listening. Right. We just have to put it all into the pot and figure out, okay, what's the best way to proceed for the greater good of the organization, not any one individual.
Right. Man, I've already kept you a little long, and we could talk about this probably for hours, but we'll cut it off here because I think you've given some amazing information. The ability to get this level of insight into a successful operation like BoyarMiller and all the work time and dollars you've invested in creating culture is invaluable to people. So I hope people listen and take steps to do that. Now, if someone's out there thinking, man, BoyarMiller, I'm a small business, I'm looking at doing an acquisition here, or, how can we get in touch with you, Chris?
Sure. Best way probably is our website, BoyarMiller.com.
There it is.
And you can see our practice areas there. I tell people, from about the high level, 90 to 95% of the day in, day out legal needs of any business in any industry is what we do. And so we love working with entrepreneurs and business owners, kind of helping them grow and build and realize their dreams of whatever that passion is and whatever that industry is. So it's a lot of fun, and we love doing it every day.
And if we want to check out your podcast, give us that one more time.
Yeah, Building Texas Business. Please, I guess, download, like, share, review, listen, and review.
Yeah.
As you know, those are all important. It's been a fun project. Like I said, I think we're 55 episodes in now, a little over 2 years. Some great guests on there that are, people, I think they go to look at the list of the previous episodes, they'll recognize names, some great stories. Every story there's some learning from, because every story is unique. And so it's been a fun project. And I look forward to keeping it going, and look forward to having you on soon.
Yeah, we're doing, I think in the new year, we're going to do kind of an employee outlook for 2024, I think is what we're planning on doing. So I'm excited about doing that. You guys do a great job with that. Well, Chris, look, I know you guys bill by the hour, so I'll let you get back to work.
Very good. All right, Corey, I really appreciate the time, and thanks for having me on. Yeah,
thanks so much. It was awesome. I mean, the information was incredible. I appreciate you taking the time to join us.
It's been, I think that I was a guest once. It's been a while. So it's been a while since I've been on this side of the microphone doing all the talking. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Have a good day.
There you have it. Chris Hanslik from BoyarMiller. Now, as I said at the top of the show, they currently are a client, and I can attest they are a first-class operation, and they are dedicated to building culture. And they talk about culture first all the time. I've been inside the business, and I have witnessed it. And if you're starting to build your culture, I mean, they are very complex at what they're doing. They have their core values, they have their tenets, they're doing surveys that are linking back to that. That doesn't happen in your first 6 to 12 months of doing this. If you were to set, a goal to have a culture statement or a mission statement outlined by the end of this year, that would be a ton, and then start working towards that. But I think what has made them so successful, and I probably should ask Chris this, but I'm going to make a big assumption here, is they're so focused on it, and they're always thinking of ways to improve it and be inclusive with people and have people be a part of it. And they're always adding complexity to it to bring more information in. It has to help the business. People feel included. They feel like their ideas are being heard, not always taken and not always acted on. But it's more important that they feel like you heard their idea than you acted on it. But by including people and bringing them in and getting their opinions and acting on it, that is a super powerful retention tool, huge retention tool. And they have it right. BoyarMiller, they have a great culture. And like I said, I can attest to it firsthand. They're fantastic to deal with. So if you are a small business owner and you're looking for a lawyer, check them out. We flashed the website up earlier.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed the show, we would love it if you could take a moment to leave us a review. And don't forget to subscribe or follow to stay up to date with all the latest episodes as they're released. Discover how keyhire supports small business owners with talent planning and acquisition by exploring our YouTube channel or LinkedIn page. For comprehensive information, visit our website at www.keyhire.solutions, where you can also sign up for a complimentary consultation to discuss any talent, experience, or capacity problems that keep you awake at night. Until next time, stop grinding and start growing.